Okay, I'm rolling. You rolling?
You're rolling.
Do Elliotte.
All good?
Go ahead.
Here we go. Coming down 3. Okay, Jake, work with me on a theory that I've been noodling around my head for about a dozen years. I believe the 2 hardest jobs in Canada are as follows. Number 1, Prime Minister. Number 2, netminder for the Montreal Canadiens.
And sometimes that might be number 1, actually.
Agree or disagree?
Number 1 for sure, Prime Minister. You got that right. But number 2, I think there's a lot more things that are probably a little bit more difficult than that. But in some people's theories, yes, no question. But I think my experience has helped me in this situation, no doubt. And obviously having Kerry around for the last couple of years and sort of understanding what he's gone through for 12, 13, 14 years and being in that position is beneficial for me. And I think, again, I'm almost 33 years old now. I've been in the league for a while. And I think if I didn't have those years, then yes, I might have reciprocated that order. But no, I think I'm in a good spot.
Could you have played in Montreal when you were 22?
No, for sure. Looking back on it, you mature differently. Everyone does. You understand your body, yourself, your game, your values, things like that. For me, it probably would have been very difficult, no question. But I used to take things a lot harder then than I do now. And I just think personally, straight up, it definitely probably wouldn't have brought success.
Were you, you're a New Brunswick guy. Your wife is from New Brunswick. Are you come from a family of Canadiens fans?
More or less, yes. I mean, my father really never had, he loved the Canadiens, but it wasn't like die hard, Montreal Canadiens. And I really technically never had one select team either. When I got into hockey, I liked John Van Beesbroek and the Florida Panthers. That's how I became a goalie. And that's why I'm number 34. I loved his mask there with the Panthers. I actually have a replica of his mask in my house. And but yeah, New Brunswick's a Habs province. So for me, the correlation is huge. And when I go home and the day I got traded, it wasn't like I just got traded in the NHL to another team. It's, it's a big deal. I get more attention in that 2 weeks than I did probably a lot of my career in St. Louis. So New Brunswick and through my family, definitely Habs fans.
So what's it like this year without Kerry there on a day-to-day basis? It must be just a hugely different thing.
It is. I think, obviously our team's been evolving and adapting and changing in the last couple of years in the process that we're going through. And for me, that first year I had was the COVID year. It wasn't a real season, that you got to, be with your teammates, especially in Canada. And Pricer was out for a lot of that season too. So obviously through the playoffs, I got to experience the real Carey Price firsthand, and I'll never forget those couple months. But and then last year, obviously, we were without him for most of the year, and obviously the injury again this year. So I've been around him, but I haven't at the same time. But the moments that I have been around him, I've really tried to enjoy them and cherish them, and really take it all in with him. I still remember the day I got traded. I said, playing with Carey Price, he was a guy I was always looked up to and never met before, but he's couldn't have been better to me, and he's been very fortunate to be a teammate.
What did you see when you saw him on a day-to-day basis? Because one of the things I honestly feel I don't ask enough questions about is the craft. I know nobody gets to the NHL and spends as much time as you have here without being dedicated to the craft, and they like to look at other people who are similarly dedicated. What did you see from him on a day-to-day basis?
I was really impressed. The first time I saw him, I saw a goalie that's already played 700 games in the NHL. That's a lot of hockey. 700 hard games, in the work that he put in, day out, to get himself going, to get his body ready to be the best he could be at that time. And in that position, it was amazing. And, obviously he went through an injury at the start of the year, and then for him to be able to just dial that back in for the playoffs, to go on the run that he went on without playing for 2 months, I could see him building and building to get to that point, day in and day out. It was just an unwavering focus once he got into the playoffs. He's a very lighthearted guy, as you guys know. He's very easygoing. He's one of the nicest guys you could be. But I could tell when he came to the rink in those playoffs, there was that focus, that relaxed confidence in him that I really knew that, if the other guys pulled their weight, that we were going to have a good chance to win every single game. And you can just tell, I think, goalie to goalie, in the goalie world, that when guys have it, when they don't. And he had it. He reminded me of Binner in 2019, and you just knew something good was going to happen.
That was actually my question, was if you had to bet next month's mortgage payment on Binnington 2019 versus Price 2020 in that one game, who are you starting?
Oh, man, that is so tough. You're putting me on the spot here. It's both my buddies, but I got to start with Pricer. He's got the record in those games, and obviously Binner does too. He won us the cup. He's going to be a legend for life. But I don't think many people wouldn't take Pricer.
Binnington's never going to forgive you.
No, I know. I'm sorry, Binner.
Okay, let me come at it a different angle, because your reputation is, the goalie's goalie, the student of the game, the 24/7, the goalie lifer. Build for me the world's best goalie. Which goalie's glove, which goalie's blocker, which goalie's movement, which goalie's stick, which goalie's lower body movement. Build for us the perfect goaltender.
Okay, the perfect goalie. We'll start off with Pricer's skating ability. We'll go with Shesterkin's hips. His hip mobility, his width, his skating mobility within his crease around his post. Pecorini's glove. Marty Berdeur's way to read the game, understand the game. I think he's a guy that didn't face many shots, but he made the saves when he had to make. I heard a lot of that before my time about Grant Fuhrer as well. In Edmonton, when he won those cups, made the saves that he had to do. And it's probably the hardest thing to do in hockey. Patrick was competitiveness, battle. Dominic Hasek's way to be unorthodox but effective. Mike Smith's puck handling. And Ben Bishop's size.
Who, if you were going to pick one goaltender to score a goal, who's the guy?
Myself.
I know you. I know this is a big one. I'm going to get there because I know it's a big one for you.
And again, any era?
Any era.
When I first think about that, a goalie scoring goal is Josie Theodore. For some reason, when that thought came to my head.
Okay.
So, but I'd have to say Marty again too. He had that poise outside of the crease that not many guys have, and it's really a thing. As a goalie, you're out of your element, you're out of your net. Some guys have that calmness to the puck, some guys don't. Pricer had that calmness. Mike Smith had the ability to make a quick play, but Marty he had that ability.
Do you have the green light to shoot to score on an empty net? And if not, is there going to come a time in your career where you just say, I got to check this box, man. I got to do it.
Yeah, the box has to be checked. That is one of my goals, no question. I think Marty would be all for it. It's a lot easier with a 2-goal lead, but there's definitely going to be a time and place where I'm going to try in the next few years.
So here's a few things that I'm really curious about. When I mentioned building the perfect goaltender and you understanding different styles, the 2019 story about you working with your goalie coach, helping your team, and one of the great quiet stories around that St. Louis Blues run was how much work you did essentially emulating Tuukka Rask to help your shooters. What can you tell us about that run? And essentially, not just being a goaltender, but also being an actor, playing the part of Tuukka Rask.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, Tuukka was on such a run in that playoffs. He was the best goalie in the playoffs, the best numbers anyway up until that point, and we knew we had our hands full with him. And with Dave Alexander, the old goalie coach for me for the Blues, he worked on goal scoring a lot with the team, and he still does, and how to score goals and where goals are coming from, and this and that. And I want to be a part of it. Obviously I was sitting on the sidelines, and I needed to find a way to contribute. And I just said, how do we take this to the next level? And we both thought goaltending the same way and sort of understood goalies. And, we understood a few things about Tuukka where he said, well, maybe this can work, or maybe the guys could take advantage of this here and there. And at the end of the day, maybe any of it helped. I don't know. But
what were those things?
It was just about foot placement in the crease on certain sides of the net, where majority of his goals were going in. His stance position was a lot different. He was so successful throughout his career in his stance, and I think he he just took up so much net in such a calm, precise manner that it didn't look like there was net, but you could find ways to make the net bigger, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So I was just trying to emulate his stance in certain positions of the game, how he moved laterally, how he played on his posts. He was very good at post play, but I always had kept his pads inside the post, where a lot of guys now are feet on posts. And there's just little things like that. It said, maybe this will help us get a goal, and maybe that goal will change a series or win a game or get us back in a game. So it was just me and Dave trying to find a way for myself to contribute, and that's it.
I wonder, just for the video portion of this interview, was there a goal in that series that you would look at and say, we scored that because someone watched what we were doing in practice?
I would love to take credit for that, but no, I'll let the guys did all the work for that. So then, their natural scoring ability did the goals.
I wanted to ask you about that. Like, I remember, like, everybody thinks about the big Stanley Cup party being Washington in 2018 when they were swimming in the fountains and things like that. But you guys had a pretty good parade and some really good scenes there. What do you remember about I happened to walk by the team party when you guys were dunking Tom Stillman, the owner, in the Stanley Cup. What are the favorite memories you have of celebrating that win?
Oh man, there's so many, and I have a folder on my phone with all the pictures from that night in the following few days, and I always go back through them, especially when I'm on the road, and just it triggers a lot of memories and cool things. But we partied hard. The city partied hard, as they should. They're deserving of that. It's been so long for them. The first one, obviously, and it was a whirlwind, no question. But as much as it would be amazing to win it at home, it was also really cool to win it on the road, because I'm sure other guys who have won the cup on the road, you get to spend more immediate time with your teammates right away. You're in the locker room, you enjoy it there for a couple hours. You get on the plane, we had a 2.5 hour flight, and then you go right back to Enterprise Center, and the team's got a party set up with your family and things like that. So it was pros and cons for both sides of it, but at the same time, I think all of us really enjoyed that just chaotic 6 hours that no one knows what the hell's going on, but you're having the best time of your life. And obviously the parades and the things that come with it, and the city turned out so great and so receptive to it all. And, I still have vivid images of Binner driving down on a little moped through the streets, Eddie, same thing, racing around, with Bud Lights in their hand. And, those memories will never fade, but there's something that I, look at probably on a monthly basis.
Really, that much, eh?
Yeah. They're good times. They remind me of a lot of good things. And when you're on the road, as you guys know, when you travel, there's a lot of alone time, a lot of downtime, a lot of hotel plane time, and just things that you look at and think about all the good times you had.
Who were you? One of the guys who dunked the owner?
I don't think that was me. I was.
I don't think.
No,
that'd be one of those things I would remember.
I do not think. Yes. No. I'd say Joel Edmondson had to be on that. He was involved in everything. He was the MVP of that whole party train.
Who was at the front of the conga line, on the plane, to the plane?
It's again. I'd have to say Eddie he's the best when it comes to that stuff. And Alex Steen was having a great time too. He was he was our one of our de facto big leaders there, and a very important person. So he led the charge in a lot of things.
Do you still watch? Do you still follow what's going on with them at all?
Oh yeah, it's bad. You didn't ask my wife. I think it's interesting when you say that. I think you probably get the same many responses from guys who are traded from different teams, but I think it's different when you're drafted to a team. It sort of becomes part of you a little bit. I spent over 13 years in that organization, so it's a long time. And, a lot of good buddies on that team. So out of the teams that I'm a big hockey guy, I watch a lot of hockey, but I watch them more than any team.
And do you still keep in touch with guys there?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. No, I'm still good friends there. And so always will. And, it's a special place.
How much of a, we always hear the phrase goalie fraternity, right? How much of a fraternity is it? Like, who are some of the guys that, you look at and you may not cheer for the team, but you cheer for that goaltender? Like, who are your guys?
Yeah, I think that's evolved for me as time goes on. I think obviously as you mature, when you get on the ice, the first you want to sort of a hatred out for everyone, but at the same time, as I've gotten on, I respect every goal in the league because I understand the ups and downs and the grinds, and I like playing against the best guys. But, you know, as the goalie fraternity, as you put it, you know, I feel like I should be part of it because I'm very detailed oriented. I enjoy it. You know, I think a guy like Elliotte, I really enjoy watching him play. He plays different, but he thinks the game very well. He thinks the position in a different way as most guys now are, you know, get to this spot, I got to drop. Get to this spot, I got to drop. You know, he really opens my eyes in some things he does with angles, perceptions, you know, staying on his feet a lot longer than most guys. So he's a guy I really enjoy watching. You know, some saves he makes are unorthodox, but that's just the way he plays and the way he's patient on his feet. You know, he's got that old school approach. So he's really one of the guys I enjoy watching and playing against, and especially in the year when we played the Canadian division, when we got to play them 10 times, you know, that was, you know, really intriguing for me. And so he's definitely one of the guys that I, you know, really go out of the way to watch some of his games or his clips and things like that.
What's the hardest thing right now about being a goaltender? Because right now, more so than ever, you know, we used to talk about, you know, goalies are the only ones that work on their craft in the off season. The guys just lift, and that's changed.
Yes.
That's completely changed. And we know all about pre-shot movement and all these types of things now that you need to start processing as you try to stop shots. What's the hardest thing about your position right now? Well,
as you just said, you know, I think about 2010, 2012, the goaltending world took over, you know, ish for probably 3, 4, 5, maybe 2016, 2017. Then the forwards started to, you know, evolve their game. And now it's time for the goalies to evolve again. But I think what you're seeing is obviously more skill than ever. We know that, but speed kills. Speed in the O-zone kills. There's more patterns in the O-zone where, you know, when I first came in the league, it was a lot of times it'd come down the wing and shoot. You know, maybe there's one pass shot, you know, low to high shot, where now it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 passes in a zone. You know, there's plays off of rebounds. The rebounds are happening instead of shooting a puck in an open net, a guy's throwing it back door to the other guy. You know, there's more chaos than ever in the O-zone, which obviously is not only hard for the goaltender, but the defensive team as well. And I think the patterns in the O-zone is the hardest thing to follow. And I think when you're really looking at the league, it's movement, it's speed, and it's execution, and it's nonstop. And, you know, the more standstill you have, it's probably the least, you know, amount of success you're going to have.
Yeah. One of my things that something that I always think about, Jake, is I'd love to be in someone else's brain for a moment, for a day, for a week or whatever. And I always think about if I was an NHL goaltender, I'd like to have that experience because I want to know how many different data points you're processing on any given shot.
That's actually funny.
How many things are you thinking about? Because we'll just watch the hockey game and say like, oh, Jake Allen stood in front of the guy and he shot it at him. What's the big deal? But I know that that's completely different, and that there are hundreds of things that are going through your mind all at the same time. What are you thinking about?
It's really funny you just said that, because actually I make notes from time to time, and I wrote down this sort of note, I guess, the other day about what goes on when a player releases a puck. You know, I look at his feet, his blade, where the puck is on his blade. You know, if he's far enough out, you can look at his eyes and his head. You know, you look at his speed. Obviously, you look at his hand. You understand where the puck is in the zone, how much net there's going to be. If the puck's in the middle of the ice, there's going to be more net. If the puck's from the dot line to the wall, there's going to be less net. How much angle can you take away from that puck? You know, does it look like it's going to release high or is it going to release low? You know, where's the opposition guys in front of you? Like, is there guys to your left? Is there guys to your right?
Quality of ice?
Their traffic. Yeah, there's a lot of those things. There's so many little finite details within that essentially when you're in the position, you're in the moment, you don't think about, because it's become almost a natural progression. But at the same time, it's how do you keep evolving that? Like, how can you get to that next level? And these shooters are so good now that it's almost impossible to actually react to a puck from like the hash marks in. It's physically almost impossible. And it's more about reading, understanding the game, understanding, you know, like I said, feet position, body position, hands, where the hands on the stick, who's got the puck, obviously. Does this guy have a straight curve? Is it a bigger curve? What's his tendencies? You know, you got to be able to take that all in. And I think the biggest thing for me in the O-zone is, I've talked to a lot of goalies about, is you got to know every player in the O-zone. You got to know the lineup, understand the guy's sticks, and things like that. So I think for me, it's just about details. And it sounds like a lot, but when you get in the moment and you get overtime, it really dumbs it down for yourself in that position. But at the same time, you're thinking about a lot of things.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of fun. That's fascinating to listen to. Number one, everybody knows who the really well-known shooters are. Mm-hmm. Who are the great unknown shooters in the NHL?
Michael Pezzetta, he scores on me every time in practice. He's my kryptonite in practice, but there's so many. It really is. Like, I would need to sit down and give you a list. I probably could give you a list of 30 or 40 guys, but everyone shoots the puck so hard now.
Yeah.
And obviously it's the technology too, and it's the skill set and guys working on it constantly. But, oh man, to give you one off the heart, there's one guy we played against last night you never would know, but Jordan Martinook has an absolute missile of a shot.
Really?
But it's different too, right? It's all depending on time and space in a game. Mm-hmm. Some guys can do it, some guys that can't. Everyone can do it in practice. But the guys that get in a game, can you shoot with pressure on you? Can you shoot getting the puck on and off your stick like an Austin Matthews can, or, a Line can? Can you handle a puck in your feet and get it off? There's so many other details that go in with it. And I personally think, if there was no pressure and it was summer hockey, you'd probably have 50 goal scorers in our league. You know what I mean? But, we only have 3 or 4 a year because of those guys are good at things that other guys can't do.
Your comment before about patterns. Mm-hmm. Are there teams that is everybody doing pretty much the same thing, or are there teams that have unique patterns? Like if you get Toronto, I know they're going to do this. If you get the Rangers, I know they're going to do this. Mm-hmm. How does that work? Yeah, there definitely is similarities, but there's differences also. It's a copycat league, but at the same time, I think the offense is sort of evolving based on your personnel, where I think maybe 10 years ago, it was more of everybody had the same forecheck, everybody had the same neutral zone. Yeah, and I think the game's evolving, saying, okay, how do we score for ourselves, not based on how do they score? And you're right, like at Toronto is obviously a very skilled team, almost like a circus offense in the O-zone, constant movement, D low, D high, forwards in the D position, guys net front, one-timers. Like there's a lot going on. And the team like we just played in Carolina, they're more of a meat and potatoes offense, but they wear you down in the O-zone. They're not going D to D. They're either getting the puck up the wall and putting it at the net or putting it back below the goal line for the guys to cycle and regroup in front of the net. And if not, they're putting it back up the wall and they're smashing at the net again. So there's a lot of different tendencies. Obviously, there's skill mixed in there, mm-hmm. but there's different ways to score. There's certain rush teams, like the Rangers and the Avalanche, but everyone has the skill. It's just about how they want to put that skill to work. Who's the most unique? Like, who's the most unique team offensively? Oh, man. That's a good question. I'd have to say the Leafs are very unique. I find they just use everyone in the O-zone. They're constant movement. Like I said, there's constant patterns. It's like basketball, it sounds like. Yeah, it's like they're all over the place, which is a good thing. Obviously, they're a very successful team, and they have a lot of high-end scorers. But I also think it's a lot of the teams based on shot selection too. I think a lot of the teams that you probably see that are high-scoring teams might not have the highest shot volume. But it's not based on just throwing pucks to the net. I don't believe in that. I believe on shooting for quality and shooting for chances that are purposeful. And I think that's how goals are scored. And I think, you look back at a team, like I said, I watched a lot of the Blues last year. They don't shoot many pucks, but they score a lot of goals last year. And I think that's the way the league's trending too, because you're getting all these skilled young players that they don't want to shoot from the wall. They don't want to come down the wing and shoot from the wall. They want to come down the wing and shoot from the ladies' tees, and mm-hmm. you're seeing more and more of that. And I think you'll see as the game evolves in the next 10, 12 years, more scoring chances, more goals, less shots. I think that's the way it's trending. And some teams might go the other way. And I get there's games where you dominate and you might have 40 shots and 30 scoring chances, but I think that's the way it's going to go. I wanted to ask you about Montreal. It's a wild thing you guys went through. 2020, you go to the Stanley Cup Final, mm-hmm. and then the year later, there's all these changes, and we're starting all over again. Right. Just what was it like to go through all of that? The ups, the downs. Like you went through it in St. Louis periodically, so you understand it a bit. But just take us through those few months in Montreal. Yeah, it was very different. Obviously, it was a COVID year, the first year, and we started off really well.
was my first team. I said, holy cow, like we get a good hockey team here, and we struggled for 4 or 5 games, and they let Claude go and brought in Dom, and we started to pick up some steam, and then we sort of hit a wall again. We just snuck in the playoffs. I think we got a point against the Oilers the last game to solidify our spot over Calgary. Still remember that. And you get in the playoffs. We knew we had a decent team. We didn't know really where we were going to go with this. We were playing the Leafs, and I think the momentum started with Carey. I think Carey swung the stick there for us with our group, and obviously being down 3-0 or 3-1, 3-1, I believe.
I remember after Game 4, everybody thought you guys were done.
Yeah,
done
for sure.
So can you talk about like how you guys crawled back in? Like,
yeah, I think it was just it was the small details. I think picking up a guy like Eric Stahl really helped for us then. And I think the big part of it was Shea too. He had that quiet presence about him, as you guys know from meeting him. He's just a behemoth of a man, and he's such a leader. And they saw him going to war no matter what for those first 3 or 4 games. It gave no one else a choice. It doesn't matter if we're down 3-0 or whatnot. We came back and found a way to do it. So I think those 3 guys, and obviously when Price, he was still playing great even though we were down. I think he basically just said, no, it's not over. And it was his story after that. And once we got rolling and got some confidence, as confidence is contagious. Momentum's contagious in this league. That's how teams have won cups and gotten to playoffs and lost out of playoffs. It's all about momentum. It just started to build from there. And once we beat the Jets, I think there was a little bit of doubt going into Vegas just because we didn't play anyone else that season. We never played with fans. I still remember going down there and we played that first game. It was like 100 degrees outside. Those doors are open, the whole arena. All the fans coming in. We haven't played in front of fans all year, really. Yeah. Guys were dying in the first period because of the travel plus the heat and plus the ice. I remember throwing ice bags or ice towels on guys who were just laying all over the place. And once we got through that first game and got sort of that wind out of our belt, it was good. And then Price put on a show again. And I think, again, it all stems back to him, the momentum, that confidence that he gave the group to do their thing. And at the same time, we didn't have much to lose. We weren't expected to beat Vegas, and we had that going for us. And next thing you know, we're in the Stanley Cup Final, Western Conference champions for the Montreal Canadiens, and somehow, and then, you're in the finals against Tampa. So it happened quick. And then obviously in the final, we laid it all out there. The guys played hard. We just were outmatched, unfortunately. And, I'll still never forget that run. I have my jersey hanging at my house, and it was special for me, obviously, to have a cup, but obviously to get a chance to do that with the Montreal Canadiens sweater on, it's something I'll never forget either. And then next thing you know, it's the following season, and I'm playing the first game here at Scotiabank Center against the Leafs, and something I didn't expect, obviously, with the Carey situation. We were all sort of excited and ready to go, and thought we were poised for a good year. I don't think we expected to be the team we were, the second best team in the league, but I expected to be better than where we were, no question. And obviously, it didn't go the way we wanted, and started really slow. And next thing you know, coach is gone, GM's gone, and it's Christmas time, and we're all wondering what's next. What are we playing for here? Where are we going to go with this? And obviously, they made a move to bring in Jeff Gorton, and he brings in Kent and Marty. And I thought the second half of the year, we had to find something to play for. And I still remember that first day that Marty came into the locker room and had a speech. I think we were all nervous. I never met Marty before, and Hall of Famer, and he comes in and gives probably the best speech I've ever heard in my life, in a locker room setting with some words that probably...
What made it so good? Like, what was it?
There was just so much passion. There was so much intention. There's so much purpose. And I think that's what we were lacking, is a little bit of purpose, a little bit of attention. And he brought that in there. He understands what the players go through. He's a Hall of Famer. He gets it. He's a player's coach, and I think he always will be. And he came in there and he just put his foot down, and, the passion that he had for the game, as we all have heard, he's forever. He's a hockey guru, but was so amazing to see that day. And it just, I think we all walked out of there with chills. Well, I think we really did. And I understand that we weren't going to climb back in the playoffs that year, but we were playing for something bigger than that. We were playing for, you know, proving ourselves to this organization, or proving yourself to Marty, and where do you want to be here? Do you not want to be here? There was a lot of things to play for, but the standard that he set from the day one, that he still sets today, it hasn't changed. And I think that's the biggest benefactor of Marty right now.
I'm dying to, like, give me one line he said that really resonated with you. I'm really trying here, but I'm going to try.
There's so much behind it. I actually talked with a couple of guys about this like last week, and I just didn't know what he was going to say. You know, he's never been in a coach's position either, you know, but he's a lot more intellectual than we are. He's just, I can't give you one line. I honestly can. I'm trying to think, but just immediate, his presence was felt. Like, just throughout, everyone was in there, equipment managers, medical staff. There wasn't one person or organization that wasn't in that locker room. So it wasn't just the players that felt it. It was throughout the organization. And I think that was crucial as well. It wasn't just the players. I think it was, you know, for everyone.
You know, one funny story that someone told me was that St. Louis had so many things that he had to deal with right away. Like the ship was leaking, and he had so many things he had to fix. He wanted to make everybody feel good about themselves. So he was like, it was funny. He said, like, we're worrying about offense. Guys got to score so they feel good about ourselves. And we didn't really work on our defensive coverage very much. And poor Jake, like, we're winning games, but Jake's getting bombarded. And he says, you didn't complain at all, but there were some games he saw you after. He says, he couldn't believe you could even stand.
Yeah, no, it was funny last year. You know, he's called it a jungle a little bit, but listen, I understand the position. I knew what had to be done. I just had to go out there and do it. I knew we were a young group at that point. We traded away some guys, and you know, I just wanted to finish the year on a good note for everyone. You know, I wanted everyone. We had such a hard year to start the season. I wanted everyone to finish on a positive note, feeling good about themselves, whether we won or lost. You know, as long as we had a dog in the fight for those games, that was my goal. And you know, there was definitely some tough games. There were some fun games too, but yeah, that was sort of my mindset. Was, you know, I also wanted to prove to Marty that, you know, I wanted to be here, and you know, I wanted to help this team grow, and that's still my position.
How is Marty with the goalies? Like, how is Marty with you? Some coaches want to be a little bit more hands-on. Others are just, they're voodoo. I'm not going to deal with them. How's Marty with you? No,
I think he's pretty similar to every other player. You know, he's so open to anything, really. He's, you know, to me, he's sort of lets me do my thing. You know, if he has something for me, he'll come talk to me just like anyone else. I don't see him really treating me different than he would a forward or a D-man. Obviously, he talks to Suzuki more than anyone, but at the same time, he's been great. You know, some goalies or coaches, like you said, no. I don't deal with you. You talk to the goalie coach, but no, I don't think he'll ever be like that.
Let me ask you about masks. I want to ask you about style, but first I want to ask you about controversy. So we talked a lot this year about Connor Hellebuck and his situation against Dallas. And we talked about Ottinger and trying to pull off the mask a couple of different times. I think a lot of us have wondered, and you're really qualified to talk about this because you think about things like this. Is there anything that can be done to the way masks are designed that we could satisfy everybody in this debate?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've been in the same situation as those guys. I got a penalty for it last year. So I've been through it. I've seen it. I've stopped a puck without a helmet on in the league before. But yeah, there needs to be something. But at the same time, the mask has been generally the same since the early 90s, really. You know, you get the plastic straps, you know, on the side and on the top and down by your chin. And there's really not much besides the actual mask itself that's gotten beefier and more protective for the head. Like the strapping has been the same. And I've thought about it a million times. You'd have to sit down with a CCM or a Bauer and really go to the plant and design something that can make it different, because I understand that pucks are coming so fast now that it's not just a shot off the buckle. If you get a puck directly in the chin or in the face, it pushes the mask up, which pops the strap off, which tilts your mask sideways, and sometimes you can't see, and reasoning for mask coming off and things like that. So I think there has to be definitely something done. I can't give you a specific answer. I think that would probably take a group of goalies sitting down with maybe a few manufacturers and seeing what their thoughts would be behind that, and saying, okay, can we propose this? Can we propose that? Can this happen? Can that happen? And if it can't, but it seems like there's always a solution to most problems in today's world. So I think there's definitely got to be something done. And it's unfortunate because when it happens in a game, generally there's a scoring chance imminent around it. So what's the right thing to do? I understand there's the safety of a goalie. I'm very pro goalie. You got to be safety of it. But, you know, there's certain times where it's certain discrepancies from different referees, and I think they have the hardest job in hockey right now. So it's a tough spot to be in.
I want to ask you about your experience stopping a puck without a mask on. Elliotte and I were watching a video, was it earlier on this week, of the 1977 playoffs, and Ken Dryden losing his mask and playing maskless for about 30 seconds. Like Bobby Schmotz ended up scoring, but for about 30 good seconds, Dryden's out there maskless. What was your situation?
Oh, mine wasn't like that. Those guys, I have way more respect for them than our goalies today. I really do. I was against Vancouver, and I was in St. Louis, and same sort of concept. I actually don't think it was a puck that hit me in the head. I think it was like a scramble in front and sort of just pulled my mask off. And then I remember the puck sort of just lodged out in the slot a little bit. I didn't really think, you know, I sort of got to my feet, and then when I got to my feet, I was like, oh no, I don't have a mask on.
Oh, no.
And I just stood on my feet, and the puck actually hit my blocker, which was fine. And then when the puck went to the corner, the referee blew it. Like it happened so fast. And so, yeah, so that was the one situation for me. And I mean, I don't expect to have another one. You know, I hope not, unless it's, you know, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. But
I was going to say,
we'll see.
If the shot came towards your face, would you have put your face in front of it?
I don't know. I think I have enough intelligence up there to either put my hand in front of my face or something. I don't know what I would have done, to be honest.
Game 28, I'm saying
I'm ducking for sure. Yeah.
Game 7 of the playoffs.
I'm ducking. Yeah. See you later. You know, this nose doesn't need to be any bigger.
Let me ask you about style. Best style of mask. Who do you look at and go, because you mentioned Van Beesbrook earlier.
Van Beesbrook, yeah.
Who does it for you?
So this is going to be, all the 90s goalies do it for me. Today's goalies don't do it for me. I love the 90s era of goalie masks, the very simple yet visible logos, visible design from a fan's perspective. We can all tell what it is if you're holding it 2 feet in front of you, but at the end of the day, it's a little bit about them too, you know. And I think my latest mask is probably my favorite mask I've had as a Hab, no question. It's very simple. It's got that 90s sort of, I think it was Brian Hayward similarity mask. So I'm a very simple guy. My pads are very simple. So it's the 90s era of masks for me is by far the best. John Van Beesbrook will never be beaten. But so it's just, there's so much going on in today's masks, in today's world. Like everyone wants more about everything, right? It doesn't matter if it's hockey, it's life. You want more and more and more. And same thing with the goalie masks. It's almost too tough to tell, but the 90s era for me is the best.
Let me ask you about skates, real quick one. This is a goalie geek question. True or false?
This whole interview is
I know, I love it, man.
But it's good. It's been really good. I learned a lot.
This is a sweet spot of the bat for me. I love it. True or false? You once took your goalie skates to like an auto body shop to get the color changed.
True. I personally did not. My wonderful equipment manager, Joel Farnsworth in St. Louis did. But when True started to make the VH goalie skate, it was my first real pair was just before the Winter Classic in St. Louis in 2016. I had it in December, and they're all black. But as a goalie skate, you always wear cowling, so it really looked from a perspective, it was white, you know, on the bottom, and that was the look of a goalie skate when you thought about it, you know. And so I put these skates on. I love the skate, and then I put them on, and you know, first few games, I was like, I don't know if I can wear these. You know, they're black, and I didn't have time to change before the Winter Classic. I was like, it's coming up, big game. So I wore them, and then I saw a couple pictures of me in the Winter Classic, and I was like, these are awful. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, what can I do? So I remember he tried to, I believe, just spray paint them or use some sort of a paint at the in his office there at the rink, and you know, it just wasn't holding up. Like pucks were breaking off. So he said, look, I'm going to take it to an auto body shop, and they use a special paint as they would on a vehicle, and painted the bottoms of it. So True, he did that every time I get a pair of skates in. And now True just started doing it the last 2 years. They do it now actually at the manufacturer, so we don't have to do it. And I think other goalies started to do it too. You know, some goalies still use the black skates, but I saw Freddie Anderson last night, and you know, he's got the same skates as me with the white bottoms. So I think you're seeing that more. I think they, you know, obviously they realized that. They said, well, let's just do it here in house. So it makes it a little bit easier.
So when we see that, we should say Jake Allen.
Yeah. Some guys like the black. Hey, I'll let them go, but I can't do it. When I think about a goalie, I think about white skates.
Goaltending and golf. Can you draw a straight line between the two?
For sure. You know, I think there's coordination aspects you could definitely take between both. I think any sport you can put into something else one way or another. But obviously the mental game too. You know, goalie's an individual sport on a team. Really, you're an individual out there playing for, you know, the greater good of your team. And golf, you're solo by yourself. You got to be able to correlate both. You know, when you're having a good day, a bad day on the course, you know, a good day and a bad day at net, or you're having a great day on the course and you just whack 2 out of bounds, and you're having a great day in net, you let one in from the red line. Like, how do you, you know, how do you get it back on course? You know, how do you get the car back in the lane? And yeah, huge correlation, I think.
Your favorite save, either that you made or you saw?
Oh boy. Favorite save. That's a good one. It's really bad. I think about this save all the time, and now I can't remember the guy's name. He's a Swiss right-hander. He played for Detroit.
Damian Brunner?
Yes. Favorite save for me would be the save that I made to win my first game. You know, Datsuka 2-on-1, sort of a backdoor play, side of the net play, I guess you want to call it, and just a tip left pad. And, you know, we go down and Barrett Jackman scores from the goal line in overtime, of all people. And I think about that all the time. I don't know why. It wasn't a big save. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't spectacular, but it was, I think, changed my life, my career. I don't know if I didn't win that game, I wasn't getting the next start, and I went on a run. So I think that's the way I look at it.
A couple of quick ones for me to go. Number one, who's going to give Jordan Binnington his fight?
I don't know. That's a good question. He's a feisty guy, man. And that's when he plays his best. But fight, man.
Will it be a goalie or a forward?
Oh man, you're right. No, I think he'll go with the goalie. I think he's had one in the American League.
Phoenix Copley.
Against Phoenix, yes. I remember they're friends. So it might be me. So who knows? So no, I'm good buddies with Binner, but no, he's got that competitive edge to him, and that's why he's good.
I have more of a curiosity. Would you text him this year when he's going through that stuff and just say, hey, do you need me or anything like that?
Not really. I think Binner's a very smart guy. He's very quiet, he's very deep, and he's very thorough, but he's very smart. And, you know, we're all going to go through struggles in this position. I've been through so many, and it's inevitable. It really is. You signed up for this position. It's inevitable, unfortunately. And if it was someone else, maybe, but I don't think he's a guy that I really needed to worry about.
Okay. After listening to this for the last hour, my question is, like, when you're done, TV, coaching, or like, I'm wondering, like listening to you talk about goalies, like they have Kay Whitmore in the league right now, negotiates a lot of this stuff, but I wonder if you'd want to do that. Like, what do you see for your future? You know, knowing you could still play for quite a while.
Yeah. No, I think it's inevitable. You always start, like, I'm 33 this year. Like, I think it's just human nature. You start to think about, you know, a little bit of what's after hockey. I want to play as long as I can, but at the same time, you know, this has given me my life. Like, this game, as we all know, it's the best game in the world. It's given you your life. I'd like to stay in the game. You know, I don't know if I'd be a full-time coach. I just think that it maybe take a couple years first. Now I have 3 kids at home, and, you know, to regroup and rejuvenate myself. But at the same time, you know, I want to stay in the game. I love goaltending. I just love the...
You can tell, like, you have such a passion for it.
I think that's evolved, honestly, over the last 3 or 4 years. I just love figuring out the problems of the situation. You know, it's a giant math problem to me. It's a giant puzzle. Like, every game's different. Every play's different. Like, how do you solve them, you know? And that's the way I think, and I think that's the way I need to challenge myself to keep myself ticking too. That's the way I think the game. And but yeah, I want to stay in the game. You know, I'd love to be working with goalies, a goalie consultant, things like that, working throughout the league, and definitely have a huge passion for the position. So when that day comes, something I'll sit down and try to figure out. And I'm a guy that doesn't like to sit still either. So I don't think the day that my hockey career is over, I'd like to be working fairly soon. So
revolutionize the mask.
Yes, I could do that. I mean,
oh, that's a Jake Allen. Oh, look at that. It's Jake Allen.
You know, but I think you made a good point about that. And I think you're not the only one. We all think it too in that position. How do we make this better? Because the equipment's so good now. You know, it's evolved so much, and I don't know if it can evolve much more, to be honest.
We've said that for decades, by the way.
That's true. We had to talk about this with player sticks the other day. I was sitting there flexing guys' sticks and looking at them, and I said, where can they go from here? Like, what can you do? Like, things are light as a thimble, you know, like.
And strong.
Yeah. Like, what can the manufacturer do? It's other than change the graphics and make them look cool. You know, it's sort of where goalie pads are going. And yeah, I think you're right. The next thing is a mask.
Last one for me. Outside of your family, you're always the most important. Who's been the most important person in your career?
Oh man, there's a lot. You know, growing up in New Brunswick, it's a small area. I played my whole minor hockey there, but you know, outside of the family, the obvious, the parents and the wife and the kids. But you know, you got to go back to someone like cliche like Dave Alexander. You know, he's the goalie coach of the Blues. It's really interesting for me to see that he's made the NHL. I made the NHL. You know, started to work with him since I was 14 years old. You know, he's my midget AAA goalie coach. You know, my summer goalie coach. You know, I get to work with him in the NHL. Yeah, so he's the guy that sort of changed the way I think about the position, how I understand the position, especially in today's game. And you know, I think he revamped my game to a point. My last year in St. Louis, where I had the best year of my life before I got traded, to where I am now. So I think from 14 to 30, almost 33, that you know, he's been a huge part of my life, and goaltending position specifically. Yeah,
this has been great.
Yeah,
Jake, thanks so much for this. Really, really appreciate it.
No problem. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Wow, did I learn a lot today.
Holy smokes.